Well, here it is, the new tiller. Just got it home from Home Depot the other night when it was 28 degrees and snowing. Kind of weird weather to be buying a tiller, but let's get it off the truck and take a look at her. So if you don't have anybody to help you get this puppy off the truck, here's a quick little tip. Just use your ramp if you have one and slide it down. I did it all by myself, no problem. So here's what this puppy looks like in the box. A little bit of assembly required. And a big warning, it says no oil is in the engine. Make sure you put it in there before you start it up. Alright, let's take this thing out of here. Okay, it's like the best way to do it with most of these big things, just fillet the box open or splay the box open. I don't know which word it is, but anyway, you know what I mean. And then really all I have to do is put these two wheels on and some bolts in the handlebar. Put some oil in it. Okay, so here's what they give you. They give you enough oil to put in the engine. I imagine a lot of you guys want to use your synthetic. I'm probably going to just use this because they give you a 2-year warranty on this guy, so I can't imagine they're going to give you junk oil. It's going to send a lot of engines back to them for repair, so it's good enough for me to get started. A little bit of hardware, operator's manual, and an owner's manual for the gasoline engine as well. A little getting started card. And see, as far as the oil, it calls for 0.6 liter. And of course, your standard viscosity for a small engine, typically 10W30 or SAE30, depending on your temperature operating range. Already, make sure your valve stem's facing out. Get the hole where this pin's going to go through, has to line up with the hole in the axle. Well, here's a good sign. They give you a Bosch spark plug instead of some cheap Chinese knockoff brand you've never heard of before. There's just a minor note on these handlebars. The installation guide shows them with the hand nut on the inside, but that's not right, because on the inside it's squared off, as is the bolt. So you want that to go in there so the bolt won't turn when you're turning the nut tight. Okay, here's the proper way to put these handlebars on, with these speed nuts on the outside. And then down here you have your choice of 1 of 3 positions. We'll start out in the middle position now to see how that works for us. Okay, let's flip this puppy upside down before we put oil and gas in it, see how it looks down there. Okay, here's this beast upside down. Of course, there's no gas or oil in the engine yet, so if you have gas and oil, I don't suggest doing this. The gearbox here looks like it's cast iron or steel. This is the drive shaft, and this is the gearbox down here. Of course, the quality of that steel, I can't really vouch for that. I guess time will tell. And the axle is also a solid steel piece. So those are all good signs so far. The tines, not super thick, but I guess they will be strong enough to do the job. We'll see. The other thing is, it'd be nice if they're at a little bit better depth. You know, the absolute maximum depth you're going to get is from the end of this shaft here out to the end of your blade. So I don't know what that is, 6 inches. I should probably measure it and see for sure. So here you can see what I mean. Looks like the absolute best depth you're going to get on this thing is about 4.5 inches. Here's something of interesting note. This machine has a forward and a reverse, but the tines are always turning. There's really no neutral. So if you want to push the machine in a neutral mode, what you can do is basically disengage the wheels by either having that pin go through the wheel and the axle, or just have it go through the end of the axle and hold the wheel in place. So right now, obviously it's engaged, so I'll just show you here quickly how that works. Yeah, I don't have my tripod, so I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out. Basically just pull the pin out, let the wheel slide down so it's up against the frame, and then put the pin back in. So now it'll spin freely without worry, so you can push it about. One thing I noticed with the handlebars when I went to flip it over, I thought I'd just use this to turn it over, but you can see there's quite a bit of twist in these, so I don't know if it's going to be a problem over the years. If it starts to rust, I can see these things possibly breaking or getting bent, so definitely keep this puppy in your garage or in your shed out of the weather over the years. I was a little concerned about this guard when I saw it online, if it's going to be real flimsy metal, but looking at it, it seems to be adequate. I mean, it doesn't easily flex under your hand, so I think it should hold up. The other thing interesting here, and some other people made note in the reviews, is it doesn't have a cover plate on the sides, which my old one does. So I would think for safety they would have put that there. Not sure why they didn't. Also, reportedly it kicked some dirt out the side. We'll see when we test drive it to see what sort of situation that's going to cause us. One gentleman said he just took some rubber and put it on the side, probably screwed it in or riveted it, I'm not sure. I actually have an old rubber mat, so we might do that. Let's see what happens here. Another point of interest is a lot of these direct drive tillers have a little brush guard on the front, just a bar comes up and goes back. And this one doesn't. Actually, on the Home Depot site, the user reviews go back to about 2013, which I guess is when this thing must have been introduced. And some of the user posted photographs do include that brush guard. Although frankly, I don't really know why you need it. The only thing you probably need it for is when you're pushing it into the garage or the shed so you don't slam it into something else that's already in the way. And unless you're tilling through a forest of trees, I don't see why you would need it here, but we'll see how that works. Maybe we'll fabricate something just so it looks badass, right? They're calling this thing an 18-inch tiller. Let's see for sure. It's actually about 17 and 5/8 from the outside of the tine to the other end here, as you can see. So 18 inches is a bit of a stretch. So this is just your depth adjustment here. It's just a pin that pulls out. Has a little ball there that pushes into the shaft, holds it in place. And then this drops down. And pretty much what I've always done with this thing is put it all the way up to the maximum depth, and that's never moved on my other tiller in 20 years. As you would expect, this guy requires some gear oil, and they're calling for SAE 90W, which means 90 viscosity in the winter, and 140 in the summertime. This thing just spins out. There's a little dipstick there, and it ships with the gear oil already in place. Somebody on the comment section asked the manufacturer how you drain this, and the manufacturer's response was, at the operating temperatures for this device, it should never need to be changed. But I'm sure there's probably going to be some people that don't want to do that as part of their regular maintenance over the years. You're either going to have to flip this puppy upside down and drain it that way, or if you have one of those little vacuum suction devices that'll suck the majority of that fluid out of there, that's the route you're probably going to have to go. Just a quick look at the engine here. They're rating this at 196 cc's, which should put it in about the 5 horsepower category. Just as a comparison, that little Harbor Freight engine, like the one I just put onto my wood splitter, they rate that at 212. This actually looks almost identical to that, as a matter of fact. Similar capabilities, has an electric on-off switch, which is nice for shutting it off. It has a fuel shut-off, which is nice. When you're done with it, you can just shut that off and then let the gas burn out so you don't have some of that nasty gasoline sitting in your bowl, gumming up your carburetor. It just cost me $200 to fix on my John Deere tractor. The choke and the throttle, of course. Alrighty, let's put some oil and gas in this thing and fire it up. It's pretty nice. You can just push it when the wheels aren't engaged. Okay, we just did a little 2-foot patch here, and I could tell you this puppy is very aggressive compared to my old tiller. It's what I'm going off of. I had that thing for 20 years, so I'm pretty experienced with how it worked. And that thing would just bounce along the ground, even though it was a pretty much similar design. Rear tines kind of rotating, but this baby just tore in and made mincemeat out of this in no time. Now there is one somewhere problem here in the pattern, which the other one did, but this is not nearly as bad as the old machine. You can see here, it kind of does like 2 channels, and then this is not really touched because that's kind of where the center part of that rear tine mechanism is. Nothing you can do about it. It's just inherent in the design. You're just going to have to make 2 overlapping passes, but like I say, this is nothing compared to what the old one used to do. The other one used to leave like 3 big strips of untouched soil. Anyway, let's do some more and we'll show this to you, how it works. Here's our trusty tiller cam. Using a bicycle handlebar mounts for that. Okay, first impressions after just tilling this little area here. I don't time it, probably 10-15 minutes, multiple passes at the full tiller depth. This thing shits and gets, it's a beast. I was a little concerned that that 196cc engine wouldn't be enough to push this thing through there, but it hardly ever bogged down at all, and this thing is set on the full depth right now. It's early February, it's been cold and warm, the ground's pretty wet. This has been tilled quite a few times before, so I wouldn't call it hard. I was also a little bit worried that this not having that big cast iron counterweight like my old one did, it wouldn't have enough weight to keep in the ground, but that is not the case whatsoever. This puppy, once you engage his gears and it starts tearing in, it just digs right in. I'd say this is probably twice as effective as my old machine was. The old machine used to just not do a very effective job of tilling. Had to make multiple passes, and even then it didn't cut very deep and wasn't really making me happy, so I don't feel bad at all about having to get rid of that. As far as I'm concerned, not having a shield on the side there, I really don't see a problem whatsoever. I don't see why you'd want one there. It really is not going to do anything for you. It's probably even more effective not having it there, and that the soil gets mixed up probably a little more effectively. It does kick a little bit of soil up on here, but you know, that's all there is, and you're going to have to clean your tiller anyway after you're done tilling something like this, so no biggie there. I did see one guy complaining in the review section that he tilled up his yard and it was muddy and the mud did stick to his tire, so yeah, I can confirm that happens. I'm also pretty pleased with this. I wasn't sure about this. Basically, there's a friction engage for forward and a friction engage for the reverse. On the old MTD machine, it was basically an internal switch, mechanical switch in the transmission, which seized up and broke the first year of ownership anyway, so I think this is probably going to last a little longer than that. I would stay away from anything that has an internal shifting mechanism. I did not use the reverse. I had no need to. My understanding is that's usually if you get jammed on something, you can use the reverse to get it out. I don't really have rocky soil, so it's not a concern for me. The biggest problem I ever had in the past was roots getting wrapped around the tines down there. And we'll have to see. I imagine it's going to be the same issue with this, just a matter of having to keep it clean. No biggie. Alrighty, here you got it. Smooth as glass. All ready to take some seed here. Just use the tractor to level off with the bucket and the blade in the back. Use the garden and the lawn rake to clean the junk off the top, sitting in that pile over there. And picked out some stones. And looks good. Good to go. Here's what's left of the old machine, just to give you an idea, comparison. I bought this in about 1996, so it's a little over 20 years old. I think I paid $450 for it back then. I think it was actually selling for $500-600, so in relative dollars, the units are pretty much the same price that they used to be. Most of these, there's a lot of these still on the market designed like this. This particular one has a big, heavy steel center frame to give it some ballast. And then it's just engine sits on here and turns a pulley. There's a small pulley on the engine, and a big pulley back here which drives the transmission. So as such, the tines turn pretty slowly on this. I think it's probably what makes the other ones so effective, that the tines turn quite a bit faster. The transmission's a bit different too. You actually had a shifter on this one, so you could have 3 modes with no tines: reverse, neutral, or forward, and then the tines would only turn in forward. The problem is, the first year of operation, this thing broke, and basically the only thing that works is the forward with tines. So, YouTube is full of people fixing these things, so I think it's probably not really a good design anyway. At least it wasn't back then. You can supposedly fix these if you can actually get them apart. I couldn't get the wheels off, and a lot of people have a problem getting the tines off of here too, because they get all seized up. So, I don't know, I might still try to fix this. It doesn't really till as good as the new one, so maybe there's no point in it, but we'll see if my time turns around. Really the only problems I had with this were, the tires were constantly going flat, which was a big pain in the butt. And of course, the wheels seized on there. And, this throttle handle broke off. And the new one has the throttle weight on the engine, which I think is fine. There's really no need to have it up here. It's not like a lawnmower where you're going to be turning the throttle up and down. Pretty much you turn it on and throttle up and away you go. And then this engages your gear. And the cable So that broke some time ago, which I guess is to be expected every time. Other than that, it's a very similar design as far as the tines itself. And the counter rotating, very similar design there. Has a depth bar. Alrighty. I'm just dying to see how this engine drives this transmission here, so I'm going to take these two bolts off this cover and we're going to take a look here. Okay, so I wasn't able to get that cover off. It was giving me a little bit of a fight, and I didn't really want to force it, being brand new and all. But I pulled up the operation guide for the device, and they give you a little diagram here, figure 13. It shows you what it looks like under that cover. So basically, you have the transmission pulley. In the center here, you have the pulley coming off the engine, and then you have two idlers. One for the forward direction and one for the reverse, and that's pretty much how that works. And it does give directions here on how to change those belts. So, as with all belts, I imagine with time they're going to need to get replaced as they wear out. Probably going to be quite a few years from now. Okay, so we're going to close the video out with a little bit of irony. I was checking the Home Depot website for this tiller to try to find the online documents for it, and I just noticed that the price has dropped $100 since I purchased this thing. Now, the kind of good news is that Home Depot offers a price match on their own prices for 30 days after purchase. The irony is, today is 30 days and it's 9:30 at night on a Sunday. So I did a chat with the guys and they said, well, go in tomorrow with your receipt and talk to the manager and see what he'll do for you. So maybe he'll get lucky and get this for $500. If not, I don't know what to say. Alright guys, I hope you found the video helpful. Cheers.